Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush. I'm your host. And today, I'm really excited to have Michael Feazel with us. He's the co-founder and CEO of Roof Maxx. And Michael, you've been in this business since like 1988 or even before that.
Long time.
Yeah, pioneering leader in the roofing construction space. You're got some notoriety. You're a longtime writer, influencer, contributor to the space, and just helping others elevate their game and through, great content, great ideas, being a great leader in the space. And at some point though, you exited the business and then you went on to create a unique product in the Roof Maxx product as well. And now you're kind of on the other side after running a roofing company for a long, long time, being in the trenches, knowing, I don't know if that's the right term, being on the top of roofs. For a long, long time. And then now you're on maybe a little bit on the other side as a partner to the people that are doing that work. And so you I would assume, have a lot of unique perspectives on the talent and the people challenges that are associated with running and operating a roofing business, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously finding great talent is important in any industry. And every industry has their own challenges. So the roofing industry, of course, I started in the industry back in the mid 80s. I got out of high school in 85 and started climbing roofs then. And by 88, started my own business. And the labor pool has changed a lot over the years. Blue collar was acceptable in the mid 80s, but most of my friends, it was, the 70s and the 80s, college became so important.
Yeah.
Gotten to the point where today, a lot of these kids getting out of high school aren't even sure if they can even have a successful life without college. Although we've seen that flip quite a bit in the last just few years with AI. And now the question is, what am I going to do? White collars are very threatened right now.
Yeah.
Blue collars kind of becoming in vogue again.
Yeah.
A lot of the top AI experts are telling people, what do I do with my children? Tell them to become a plumber.
Yeah.
Right. So
Plumber, roofer, any trade. I mean, it's an extreme demand for that talent. And, the people get paid really well in many cases. I mean, I've got a buddy, electrician in Northern California. Now that might be an extreme example, but I mean, they're paying electricians like $200,000 a year. So there's, it's a great lifestyle, can be a great lifestyle, and it can be a great living. And, it's something that you can be proud of. So in the more kind of recent past, I mean, we're obviously seeing some shifts, hopefully it's a softening or a reawakening that, hey, being in the trades can be a rewarding career in many different ways, not just financially. But what are some of the biggest trends that you've seen with your partners or your clients? What are some of the challenges that they're facing, and maybe any creative ways that they've gone about solving those?
yeah, interestingly enough, when we sold our roof replacement company, which was a traditional roof replacement company, you need skilled technicians to know how to repair, find a leak, replace a roof. So there's definitely a skilled technician required for that. With Roof Maxx, what my brother and I saw when we came across the product, right? Our product, for the listeners, right? We're simply applying a product to a roof. It's a plant-based treatment that soaks down into the shingles, and an asphalt shingle roof needs to be replaced when the oil dries out, for the same reason that you get a pothole in the road.
Yeah.
If the oil stayed in the asphalt, that road would last forever, but it doesn't. It dries out, and that's why a roof fails. So our treatment just soaks down to the shingle and replaces the lost petrochemical oil with a natural bio oil and brings that roof back to life. So because of the product that we had, we realized very early on that we did not need extremely skilled technicians. So we went down the path as we sought business partners to buy our franchise. It's a dealer model, but for all intents and purposes, it's structured like a franchise, meaning we give all the support and the training.
Yeah.
They buy product from us. They must drive a vehicle that is wrapped in our design and keep branding consistent. So we went after business opportunity seekers.
Okay.
So a lot of our partners are people like yourself.
Yeah.
Everything from ex-bankers to insurance guys that come out of insurance to construction guys,
Okay.
people. We have plenty of females as well.
So your target, and then you've got guys in a truck, and maybe they have a crew, and they're out there marketing to homeowners or probably commercial, some case, some commercial property owners.
Yep.
For saying, hey, how do I get another 10 years out of this shingle roof, right? Or this, traditional asphalt shingle roof that, we see all over the place. And that's an alternative to maybe re-roofing, or then I imagine there's some sort of reoccurring kind of revenue in that sense, maybe come every so often to get the maximum value out of that. And that's a lot more palatable for me as a homeowner than,
Yep.
having to, fork out 20 grand to re-roof or something.
Exactly. Yeah. What we do is we kick the can down the road 5 years at a time. Each treatment lasts for 5 years. We come out and assess the roof again 5 years later and see, can we get another 5 years? But, we're helping 80% of customers avoid replacement. And it's just a way to strengthen and extend life. We have a lot of customers that are not even waiting until it's end of life. They're doing it earlier in the life cycle just to keep that roof healthy and strong.
Yeah. And are you partnering with traditional roofing companies as well? Are they become vendor partners as well and saying, hey, this is a great kind of add-on service? I mean, there's still inevitably can be storm damage or leaks that occur for other reasons. And you want those relationships with the customer to be a long lasting, not necessarily, hey, I'm the guy that comes every 30 years, right?
Yeah. 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 We're seeing more roofing contractors come online. It was a new industry, roof rejuvenation. We created that industry. It didn't exist before. The commercial roofing world, there's always been roof restoration for the last 30 years, 35 years, and that's become more and more popular over that time frame. Commercial properties very rarely put a roof on, let it fail, and then replace it. There's a lot of inspections, maintenance, repair, and restoration, GE silicone as an example. So we knew that it would work on the steep slope side. There's never been a way to maintain an asphalt shingle roof other than blowing the debris off or trimming the tree branches back so they're not damaging the roof, simple things.
Yeah.
But this is a way that the first time you could, our product is the first time there's been a way to actually maintain a roof and extend its life. And we can double the life of the average roof out there. If we're catching it early enough, we can double its life.
And you're still having to find guys that are willing to go out on that truck and climb up on that roof in all different possible weather conditions. What have your dealer partners dealt with? How are they dealing with attracting people to come and work and, stick with this job and this and working in this arena? I imagine they have everything from salespeople to guys going up on the roof helping do this. And it's a forever challenge. What are, you guys as a group and, or, your network of dealers, what kind of challenges have they faced and what kind of solutions are they bringing to the table to try to, optimize both finding and retaining folks?
Yeah. I think the challenges differ by the contractor, how they see the world, the size of their business, also different parts of the country. But by and large, I'm telling dealers, because I believe this, you always have to be recruiting.
Yeah.
You always have to be looking for great talent. I don't think that really stops. Some of the old ways where you're just posting ads online, that can work to a degree. I tell people the best is to try to go through your network because you're looking for people that are, they're going to fit your culture. even if you're a small company, you have a culture that might be a culture of 3, but the culture of a company is typically driven by the owner
Yeah.
and how they see the world and how they want to react to their customers and how they want to treat their people. So that is, for small business, I think that's one of the better ways to do it. As you grow a company, of course, you have to be more aggressive with your recruiting and what those skills look like and how are you going to have a 20-minute conversation and, hey, you're hired, I'll see you on Monday?
Yeah.
Or you have a multi-step process of recruiting, hiring, and then training is the big thing. Most small businesses don't do a great job of training.
Yeah,
And
I think you're touching on something right there with training. So, I mean, you covered, job boards, obviously that's kind of the obvious place to go, right?
yeah,
And helpful and necessary in many cases, but you talked about referrals or tapping into your network, and that by far is the number one. I mean, it's like 87% of hires made through referrals are considered to be good to great, and
yep,
kind of makes sense if you think through that. And then something, always be recruiting, the old like Wolf of Wall Street, always be closing kind of thing, right? Always be
yep,
recruiting is a mindset that can be challenging, though. I find with small business owners, it's difficult for them to build that habit and to build a bench.
it is.
The top grading guys were always famous for that. Hey, build a bench, build a bench. But I talked to so many leaders, and none of them really ever pull it off very well, right?
Yeah.
But
You have to get to a certain size. You have to get to a certain size to do it. Helps when you have a HR person or a department, and But yeah, that is the Achilles heel of small businesses. They're not good at recruiting. The proverbial one man band, right? Wearing
yeah,
many hats, and that's why they kind of tend to hit a glass ceiling. Most small businesses never make it past 3, 4, 5 people.
but you must have some, dealer partners that have expanded and have larger organizations, I imagine, that have figured this out, how to scale and systemize
They have.
execution of what you're doing here, right?
Yeah, they have. And, those are people that tend to, they've come from a background where they know how they're professional managers,
Yeah,
or, maybe that's of a sales team, maybe that's of a production team, whatever the case may be, but they know how to build teams
yeah.
and a little more strategic in their approach.
So coming back to the last piece of that is assuming that you found somebody, however you find them, it really, that part, there's some pros and cons to where or how you fish or you ultimately source your talent. But no matter what, at the end of the day, once you offer me this job and I show up on Monday and it's time to go to work, the training and onboarding piece can be an often, severely overlooked component of what I believe. I believe training and onboarding is a crucial part of it's part of the hiring process. You might be making them a paycheck and you might have thought they're hired and they might be in your payroll system,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really end until they're fully bought in and fully productive. So that's, the boss's perspective of that person is doing well, right? But it goes both ways. So, what are some lessons that you've learned there, or what are some best practices? Because I think you've put on like a roofing university. I mean, you've been pretty integral in creating training and education programs for the industry itself, right?
The industry itself, and then for the industry itself, but then also our dealers. We have Roof Maxx University. We can onboard a couple hundred dealers a year,
Yeah.
put them through all of the training. A lot of that is automated. A lot of that is hands-on, right? Every week there's a 3 or 4 hour training for the newer dealers coming through. We connect all of the dealers through a certified Facebook closed group
Yeah.
where they're sharing ideas. A dealer can have a question, especially a new dealer, they can be on a roof and have a question. Does this roof qualify?
Yeah.
They snap a picture and then, in 5 minutes, they have 7 or 8 responses.
So
That,
the dealer network will chime in and help the guy out, the newbie out, not hang him out to dry on top of that roof. Right?
yeah. So you just look at different ways you be creative, right? So we've built all of these, LMSs out and all this stuff, right? So, and I don't think that ever really ends. It's an ongoing, evolving process.
Yeah, so there must be some, significant intentionality there. I imagine maybe in the early days this was a more primitive system, or how has it maybe evolved? Where did you got your first dealer partner? You were just like, all right, here's your truck and here's some stuff, and go up there and fix some roofs, or what?
Our first dealers were you can't see my phone, but our first dealers were trained on FaceTime.
Okay,
Back in 20 late 2018, early 2019.
okay, yeah.
It was FaceTime.
Video tools and
And I just started to realize that, right, I'm answering the same question over and over and over again. When we hard launched, we became one of the fastest growing business opportunities in history.
yeah,
And so a ton of demand, didn't have the systems in place. We weren't prepared for that kind of growth. And so I was literally, instead of, once I answered a question for the third time, I would just do a video on it and then shoot it over to somebody on the team and say, put this in a folder, call it Roof Maxx University.
yeah.
And so then it became more formalized and more polished over time. And, and now it's an LMS, and,
Yeah.
it's evolved quite a bit.
And that's probably going to be true for many smaller businesses that haven't quite got there yet. And that's a great kind of real life example of like, okay, look, it probably isn't going to be perfect. You're probably going to be the one that answers the email or answers the phone and has to answer that question for that new hire. But I think you nailed it there is, okay, once you've heard it a couple of times, be intentional, take 2 extra seconds to log it, document it, and then, hand it off to a VA or office manager and admin, and
Yep.
delegate that task to them to be able to build out the LMS, platform. I mean, I'm a big fan of Trainual, like for small businesses, and it's worth checking out. I mean, there's lots of LMSs out there, but on the small business side, that tends to be an easy, low cost kind of solution there. And they do a really good job of helping facilitate that kind of content for businesses, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's being creative, like you said, being intentional. Um, and then just putting in the work, just doing the reps.
How are you guys dealing or seeing, across your sector? I mean, this is the thing that always shocked me about, roofing when I started working, my first couple of roofers. They would tell me things like their work comp rate, especially in California, was like 75 cents on the dollar. So if you pay somebody a dollar, you got to pay them, then you got to pay them another 75 cents just to insure them for
Yep.
workers' compensation. I mean, are you guys still seeing those kind of trends even in your sector? And what kind of, from a safety and training and work comp perspective, kind of guidance are you giving to your dealer partners, or are you seeing amongst them on how they're going about solving some of those problems to lower those, E-mods so they can be more competitive with the cash they give the person, the employee?
Yeah, state to state, it's very different, right? Ohio is much different than California. Roofing in California is through the roof, like everything, because everything is so overregulated that it makes it very expensive, 75 cents on the dollar,
Yeah.
right? So that's an awful lot, where you can be 18% on the dollar in other states that manage things better, in my opinion.
It's still a lot compared to, my 3% for
Yeah.
office worker,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And so unfortunately that cost gets carried back to the consumer in the way of just a very high cost.
Yeah.
And, you see that in certain states, right? Chicago is very heavily regulated. Florida for roofing, very heavily regulated because of the hurricanes. Midwest, not so much. So different dealers handle it differently. I don't get real involved. If somebody has a question, I'll give them my opinion. But as a dealer model, we're not going in and help structure packages to buy workers' comp across the state of Ohio and get 30 of the dealers together to get lower, right? They have to go out and find those type of organizations, and there are. And I did that at Feazel Roofing, my roof replacement company that I started back in the mid 80s. So we did those things. So we encourage them to go out and be creative and, build a business, but we don't hold their hand down to that level.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to have those conversations. I get those questions on our weekly call. There'll be a few hundred dealers on the call, and somebody will ask a question. I give them my honest answer, and then tell them to do the research and make the best decision they can.
Yeah.
We're going to coach them more down the road of how to sell the product, how to market, right? Things along that line versus the real detail of the day-to-day business operation.
Are you seeing Are you seeing many of them build out, successful sales teams and growing beyond the one man show and doing the sales and marketing side of it?
Yeah, we have a handful of dealers that'll break probably in that $10 million range this year. So they built successful companies.
So anything you've seen that they've done to be really successful at building out a kind of I would assume it's a lot of it's direct sales, or are they doing more marketing? Or I mean, what's
Bit of everything,
yeah,
but they just know how to build out a team.
yeah,
They know how to operate. They're operators. They know how to execute. And it's like in any business, most small business doesn't make it past 5 people. There's a reason for that. It doesn't mean that the owner's bad. They just don't know how to execute.
yeah,
Or they do know how to execute and they found the work-life balance that they're looking for. But,
yeah,
I've got a lot of friends in the construction business, and most of them have just bumped their head once they get past a couple, 2, 3, 4 people. They don't want to deal with the headaches of employees. They don't like to fire,
yeah.
which I know the early years I wasn't comfortable firing. Today, it doesn't bother me at all to fire somebody who's not doing their job. I don't lose any sleep. I used to lose a lot of sleep over that. It doesn't make me bad. It just makes me realize that if I don't do that, the company is in jeopardy.
Well, yeah, you're kicking a problem down the road for really everybody involved, including the person that you're going to let go, because it, once you've emotionally made up your mind that that person needs to leave,
Yeah.
it's a problem, right?
The problem. But, one of my questions I ask anybody that I'm hiring as a manager, are you comfortable firing? It's one of my first questions. And then I go deep down that rabbit hole with them because
Yeah.
I want to understand, where are you at in your managerial career? And if you're at a point where I'm really uncomfortable firing, you haven't fired enough people. And if you haven't fired enough people, you've not either worked for great companies or you haven't been a manager for very long, because great companies, they don't keep weak people around. There's KPIs to drive
Yeah.
all of those right outcomes. Most great companies wouldn't even let you be in a management position unless you're comfortable letting people go, because you're looking at it through the wrong lens.
Yeah.
Which it's, anyway, but so it's the maturity of the business owners and where their skill set is. And maturity is not age, maturity is experience and how you see the world. So our great operators are just great business people.
Yeah.
And our one-man bands that stay a one-man band, it's either they have no desire to get bigger, they make enough money and they like the quality of life, and it's not for me to say, I'm fine with that. Or they just don't have the skill of recruiting and bringing people on and getting them excited and selling a vision.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned, the KPI side of that. I think one of the things, I mean, when I ran a blue collar shop, I did commercial dish machines for a period of time. And, I was blessed to be part of a really great organization, a lot of great education behind that. But man, we measured everything, right? And
Everything.
it made it really simple to manage. I mean, literally every day we talked about their KPIs, and it made it a lot easier to have to fire people. I mean, one, we had the backup of a large organization and, felt more comfortable. But I mean, the people would just self-select out, right? I mean, it's pretty early on, they realize they're not meeting it and it's not a great fit for them. And
Yeah.
you almost don't even have to have that conversation. They can, leave on their own. But if you're not always recruiting, that becomes painful for you as a leader, right? Because now you have this big gap and it can take, sometimes months to refill or backfill a role.
And in today's virtual world, it was brought to my attention, somebody from the team did an interview who was let go,
Yeah.
and he did an interview, and he was, during the interview, not with our company, with somebody else. I don't know if it was a written interview or what. I just came up through the management team to me. And he openly admitted that he was only putting in 15 to 20 hours a week because he was getting all his work done with AI.
Yeah.
As a virtual company, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm hyper aware of that, right? When I Slack one of our people and they're never answering the Slack all the time,
Yeah.
it's always 5, 8 minute delay. I'll go pull up and look at the calendar and see if they're busy. And I just rack that in my head or let a manager know, boy, that person doesn't seem to be around all the time. And I'm one to just Slack somebody,
Yeah.
not message them and say, let me know when you're available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's just all of, and the work environment has changed so much. And it's not that you don't trust people, but I'm a big believer in trust and verify.
Yeah. Well, and that's where metrics really come into place.
That's
And
it.
then look, if somebody is hacking it and they are they're able to do their work in 20 hours a week, then pay them more to do another 20 hours a week. Because whatever you pay them to do, and if they're able to, double their output, because, you're probably not going to double their pay, and not, usually. So if I can increase your pay 30% and you're going to do double 200% of what I expect of you, man, the ROI on that person is amazing. So, I would go for that. But, what you're talking about from a communications perspective is definitely, that's kind of a culture thing ultimately. Hey, this is a culture of, we're responsive, whether that be to internal partners or to probably customers too. People like that might also be slow to respond to a customer. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. We've got a great team. We've got a great team. This was just one instance, but there's also struggles when if you get into the virtual, right? We are a virtual company,
Yeah.
Dispersed across the country, and we've got coders in Europe and, Brazil and whatever. So, and then of course, dealerships across all 50 states. So we're a dispersed company, right? We don't have a brick and mortar other than our manufacturing facility.
Yeah.
So, it's been challenges with that. Once you get past 60, 70 people in a company, you start not knowing everybody's name. There's layers of management between, and, that's not a big company, but, you get past about 70 people, it's hard to remember people's names, or you're just not interfacing with them that much. And the culture starts to shift. And, and I experienced that at my roofing company, and I've experienced that with this company. But, people are amazing, and you only get work. Businesses are nothing but a common, everybody has a common goal, and it's a bunch of people achieving that common goal, and you try to provide leadership and motivation to get there. It's pretty simple, right? But in theory, it's very simple.
Yeah.
In practice,
easier said than done. And, people are the least exacting science, area. So, it's easier to go to Mars than it is to, predict anything about a human.
Business is messy because we're messy as humans.
Yeah.
Trying to build a system of keeping everybody rowing in the same direction, and the motivation and the excitement, that's challenging, but it can definitely be done. People are wonderful. They're amazing.
But look what you've been able to do in, multiple different kind of arenas there, and there's different ways to get there as well, right?
Yeah, very much. My old business was a brick and mortar, right? Everybody came to the office, all the employees and the installers, and right, there were a lot of water cooler conversations, and there's a lot learned there, and relationships built that, quite frankly, you don't build in a virtual environment unless you're on consistent meetings with that person and they're part of your team.
Yeah.
Many people you just don't know unless you see them at the conference.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Mike. I really appreciate you sharing your perspectives. How can people get a hold of you?
Feazel at roofmax.com, 2 X's, or just roofmax.com, 800roofmax.com. So we're easy to reach.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure any contact information you want available to everybody's in the show notes and any of the follow-up clips that we'll put in here. And I really appreciate you having me on today, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Fletcher. Good luck.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, fletcherwimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, fletcherwimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.